Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Tuesday chat with Otram. Hopefully this is coming through clear and sounds better. I picked up a new microphone today and I haven't used it before. So hopefully I have this set up right and you guys can actually hear me. And again, no real agenda for this week. Basically, whatever cruiser questions or whatever questions you guys have got, I'll answer them. So just let me know what you want to talk about. It's been a crazy busy week at the shop since last week. We've got, thank you. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a Keystone Cruiser shirt. We've been swamped at the shop. I'm just about done prototyping stainless exhaust for the 80 series with the 3FE. Been working on that. We've had a bunch of timing belt jobs on 100 series, a couple of HC deletes. Started today on a customer bumper for an 80 series with dual swing outs. So I'll bring you guys pictures of that and maybe some in-progress video as I get further along. What else? Got the new blast cabinet all set up. Test drove that on a split case that's going into a 40. We're doing a 3FE to H55F to split case swap on it to get him fuel injection. Yeah, it's been crazy. We have, he's not new anymore. He's been there about a month. New guy, Tim, in the office, part-time, handling emails and scheduling and estimate writing, which is letting me stay in the shop more and be more productive, which is a good thing, although we've doubled our productivity and we're still not keeping up with the wait list. The waiting list is growing longer, faster than we can clear trucks off. So hopefully sooner than later, we'll get the other half of the building and can add more production space and possibly a third tech, because we are getting super busy. But yeah, that's about all I can think of that's going on new. Excited to start building the 80 bumper. I haven't built a custom bumper like that in a long time. I've done a couple of 40 bumpers, over the last couple of years, but nothing as super in-depth as this. It's getting, tire rack, a ladder on one side with a swing out mount that's going to hold an aluminum toolbox. So the ladder will swing out, and then the toolbox will also swing out from the ladder. So it's gonna have a lot going on, but should be a really fun build. We'll finally get to use the big press brake that I put together a couple of months ago. I've used it for little brackets here and there, but not actually doing huge sheets. So I'm excited to see how it does with 4 feet, a 3/16 plate. It shouldn't have a problem with it, but haven't done anything that thick yet. So we'll see. And I had written myself a note to outline things to talk about until people started tuning in. And I didn't do it. We just got too busy today. Had to run to the machine shop to get more welding gas to finish tacking up the stainless exhaust. It got cooler here, so I thought I had some pressure left in my big argon bottle. And with the dip in temperature, it wasn't enough to flow. Put the backup bottle on the welder, and it was empty too. So either I emptied it and forgot to refill it, or it leaked. Either way, I was all out of argon and had to go run down to the machine shop / welding supply and go pick stuff up this morning. which I love an excuse to go to the machine shop. If any of you guys are in Virginia, Culpeper Machine down in Culpeper, really cool store. It's in like the old train depot, and it's like a steel, aluminum, whatever you want metal supply, plus a full running machine and welding shop, and then also like welding shop, hardware store, welding supply, everything. They've got just a little bit of everything in this like really old building. And you can just kind of walk around and pick through the drop piles and pick steel out that way. So I've got an order coming from BMG Metals tomorrow, on a flatbed for all the sheet and full lengths of steel I needed. But they're only cost effective when you're buying full lengths. When you need just like little bits, it's so much better just to go to Culpeper and pick through their scrap pile. And you can usually find something that'll work. Am I going to fall crawl? I don't even know when fall crawl is. I should know things like this. It'd be fun. I won't have a vehicle ready to go. We've got so much going on at the shop. There's no way I'm gonna have time to either get my truck or Crash's truck. And it just depends on what's going on with stuff here. I know we've got a couple of PA trips in October coming up. So yeah, it just depends on what falls with fall crawl. And if I can catch a ride up there with you. Because I'm not driving the Subaru all the way to Roush Creek. So yeah, if you have a spare seat, I'm riding with you if I can free that weekend up. And glad you like the videos. We have a lot of fun making them. And hopefully they're helpful. Yeah, the timing belt replacement videos, they were the best I could do at the time that I made them. I'm not happy with the audio. I didn't realize how loud it was when I bumped basically the head cam into things until I was editing the video. So after those set of videos, I got a separate audio recorder with a microphone. So one of these days, I'll go back and re-record the timing belt videos with better audio. But until then, those are what we've got. So I'm glad they were helpful. We're trying to shoot them, as jobs come into the shop. I did Thorley headers a couple of months ago, and I thought about doing a video on their install, but it's so tight in there that I don't think I can get a camera, my arms, and tools into the engine bay in a manner that you're actually going to be able to see what I'm doing while I'm doing it. I did a quick video. It's, I think it's like 100 series exhaust manifold quick tips. It's something like that, that gives some pointers and a few helpful tips as far as getting in there and doing it. My biggest suggestion would be buy new studs and new lock nuts from Toyota before you start. It's kind of expensive and it's a lot of money in just hardware, but you're gonna ruin the nuts taking them off. We use some stuff called Freeall, and we'll soak all the manifold hardware, starting a couple of days beforehand. Soak it, every day, 1 or 2 times, and you still have a couple that fight you. I've got flex head, spline drive, wrenches, and sockets, and those seem to really help with gripping the nuts and not rounding them off. I don't know what the exhaust nuts are made out of, but they're so soft, like a snap-on 6-point socket rounds them off. The spline drives seem to help with not destroying them. But even then, we end up using turbo sockets. They're like spiral rusted nut remover sockets. We end up using those, or I've had to go as far as cold chiseling the nuts off. It's it's not a lot of fun. We charge, I think we bill that at like 13 hours, and sometimes they go faster, but a lot of times you have every bit of that much time in it just fighting fasteners. The passenger side's not terrible. The driver's side, it seems like everything is in the way of getting to the hardware. I do a lot of them from leaning over the engine bay from the top with a shorty extension and a spline drive socket. It seemed easier to do it that way than to try to go in with wobble extensions and stuff from the side. If somebody quoted you $600 to install them, I would jump on it. I think we're closer to $1,350, $1,400, somewhere in there for install. And I'm not sure where you're located. We're just on the edge of the Rust Belt, so we deal with a lot of seized fasteners, which make it a more difficult job. Okay, that's funny because our dealership, well, I don't know about the one here in town, but I've had people tell me that one of the local dealerships further in towards the city quotes like 1,000, which was less than what we quote. But it's a horrible job that I'd rather not do. And if I'm going to do it, I'd like to get compensated for the pain and suffering. Southern California, I would guess not that bad. I mean, I would guess it wouldn't be that bad as far as Rust. I would guess you guys are fairly dry down there. But yeah, and I wouldn't think it would have to need to be a Lexus dealership. Toyota dealership should be able to do it too. It's the same thing. So I don't know if they would be any cheaper, but $600 sounds like a decent quote. It seems like a cheap quote. I'd be worried about them getting in there, realizing that they've quoted that low, and raising it once they get in there. But who knows? Yeah, it must be nice to have rust-free 100 series. Every one of them we see is super, super rusty. And even the ones that don't look like they're horribly rusty, all the bolts are seized. Oh, well, if he's done the Tundra before, he likely knows what he's getting into. And the Tundra, if I'm thinking correctly, the Tundra should be a little bit trickier because the Tundra likely has the secondary air injection piped into the manifolds as well, where the 100 series LX470 didn't. I haven't done the later 100 series with the VVTi on them, so that may make a difference. Okay, yeah, the Tundra secondary air is not fun to get to. I haven't done Thorley headers on one, but I've done the secondary air replacement when the solenoids fail, and that's a job. Yeah. God, I think even rust free, I don't think you could do that for 400. Yeah, I've heard the variable valve timing. There's something different with the Thorley headers. I don't know what it is, but I've heard people talk about there being a difference in them. I haven't done Thorley headers on a newer one to have seen yet. But it's a they're nice. They fit well. I don't know that they add a ton of power, unless you're supercharged. But when you weigh them against the factory manifolds that are known for cracking, they seem like a pretty good deal. So we generally install those over doing factory manifolds. Uh, the Thorley headers, the way they routed the pipes, it seems like they routed a pipe directly in front of every manifold mounting stud. So it gets fun tightening some of them. You're in there with a little stubby ratcheting wrench, but they're not horrible. I don't know how you would ever get in there with a torque wrench to tighten them, but yeah, we've had good luck with them. I've done, I don't know, 4 or 5 sets. Uh, when we do it, we do timing belt, water pump, all the timing belt pulleys, the hydraulic tensioner, thermostat gasket, and heater tees, and it's right about 1100 out the door. Um, oh, and that's also including cam and crank seals in that price. But the ones with VVTi, we don't do the cam seals because you got to pull the cams to do the seals. So they're a little bit cheaper because there's no cam seals on there. So they're probably closer to 1100. And occasionally we get in there and you need a fan bracket, or you need a serpentine belt or serpentine belt tensioner, something like that, and it raises the price a bit. But the general out the door is like 1100, 1150, somewhere in there. Um, I can never remember the exact time frame where they switched to VVTi. If you've got variable valve timing, then you're not going to want to do cam seals, uh, because you've got to pull the cams, and it's a ton of work. Um, if you've got an older model, we put it on the estimate, and then if we get in there and they're not showing any signs of weeping, we leave them alone, because I've gotten in there before, and we've gotten in there before, put new cam seals in, and then we put a cam seal in and it starts leaking. Um, so yeah, it depends. We put it on the estimate. It's not that much more work to do it when you've got everything torn down. So if they're showing signs of weeping, we do them while we're in there. If they're dry, we leave them alone. We usually don't see them start weeping until like the 180,000 mile mark. And even then, it's probably 50-50 on whether or not they're weeping. And same with the crank seal. You can get to the crank seal easy enough on either version, but we leave them alone unless they're weeping. And we keep them in stock, so we've got them on hand. Yeah, with 203,000, it's hard to say. It's probably a 50-50 chance that you'd need them. Awesome. If you tag me, it'll alert me, and then I can follow it along if you've got any questions. I don't. I check mud every now and then. I don't spend a lot of time on there unless I'm researching something. But when folks tag me, it sends an alert to my phone, so then I know to check the thread. Not sure what's up with this DeBest guy. We're just gonna delete him and report him. Yeah, not a big fan of spammers. P0705. I feel like I've dealt with that one, but it's been a couple of years ago. And from the house, I can't get into the shop information system to look up the troubleshooting on that. The one I messed with, it was the sensor itself. But he also had a problem. His shifter was broken inside the cab, and it was floppy enough that it wasn't engaging the sensor all the way. And yeah, you would shift, and the shifter would lock into position, but it wasn't moving the selector or the transmission all the way. So you might want to look at that. And my dad just texted me that my video is jumpy, and I apologize. I switched to using a laptop at home to do live chat, and there's no Ethernet port on it. So it's streaming over the Wi-Fi here at the house. So I'm guessing that's what it is. And I'm not quite sure how to fix that. I'll have to look at that for the next one. Max temps. I would start getting worried if you're getting up into the 210, 215, 220 range for an extended period of time. Like my old work van didn't turn the fans on till 2:30. But I'd like to see them stay closer to 200. But I wouldn't get scared until you're up to like 215, 220. If it's in the morning when it throws it, I would check all the connections for corrosion and condensation. It could be that in the morning with the cooler temperatures, you've got dew and like condensation in one of the plugs, throwing it off. So I would check those and maybe dry out the plugs. And I'm hoping this weird jumpy lag will stop. Because, yeah, I'm seeing it now on my end. If it only gets up to 210 on long uphill grades, but then cools down, fairly quickly after that, I wouldn't be too concerned. Yeah, I would check your condenser and your radiator, just to make sure you don't have dirt, mud, grass, tons of dead bugs accumulating in there that would be impeding airflow. But yeah, 210 doesn't seem horrible for a long uphill grade. Yeah, if it's cooling down quick, I wouldn't be super concerned about it. Maybe if I stay really still, the video will ease up. It could be fan clutch. And if you're going to get in there looking at the fan clutch, take a look at the fan bracket too. Those are more common to fail once you start getting up there in age. Single shear bearing that the fan clutch and the fan are hanging off of, and those will start whining, grinding, and you're pretty much into a timing belt job by the time you get that off. So we always check them during a timing belt job. Well, now I went all the way away. I was on the other screen trying to adjust bandwidth settings. Uh, hmm. Okay, apparently I should not have tried to fix the jumpy video. Oh, maybe I'm back now. No, I'm not. Yeah, I bumped the megabits down, and it shows that it's just frozen now. Okay, I think it was my new webcam died. So hopefully I'm back. I switched to the laptop webcam. So hopefully I'm back and you guys can see me, and I'm live. Awesome. So I'm not sure what just happened. I think my webcam that I've used like a dozen times just died, because I tried messing with the bandwidth and then it just turned off and went to a black screen. So sorry about that. I work on Land Cruisers, not audio, video, tech stuff. And hola, Richie. Crash misses you. And can you guys hear me as well as see me now? But that means I have to come to California, and that's a long ways away. I've never been that far west. Awesome. Glad it's working. Yeah, I switched. I was using like an HD webcam, and apparently that's what went unhappy. So I switched to just using the built-in camera that's in the laptop. Yeah, I need to go out west. I've been as far west as Arizona, and that's it. I think we're going to Iceland in the spring, so that's the wrong direction. Yeah, I'm probably only like 3,000 miles from you. I'm clear on the other side of the country. Sure, ask away. Open to, yeah, whatever questions. I don't really have a format for these. It's just answer questions whenever people ask them. Yeah, but California has all the good cruiser parts shops. Well, California and Utah. It takes forever to get anything because I've got to get everything shipped over from your side. Cruiser Brothers, or I'm sorry, not Cruiser Brothers. Well, Cruiser Brothers is the parts side. Valley Hybrids in Stockton. Yeah, Valley Hybrids in Stockton. Luke at 4x4 Labs. I've been following these guys, Stellar Built, on Instagram. They seem to do really awesome fab stuff. But for mechanical, George at Valley Hybrids, Mark Algazy at Mark's Cruisers was good. I'm trying to think who else. And then Cruiser Outfitters in Utah. Slee and Robbie in Colorado. You've got Tor up in Washington State, maybe? But we get a bunch of our parts from Valley Hybrids / Cruiser Brothers. Um, um, there's a lot of things that can go wrong on 100 series. A lot of it's just it's general maintenance that folks put off, which is part of why we put the pre-purchase video together. To give you an idea of a lot of the maintenance that people neglect. So what to look out for when you're looking at 100 series, and depending on where you are in the country, they can be pretty rusty. So that's something to keep an eye out for. But you got to figure it's an almost 20-year-old truck for the oldest ones now, or is a 20-year-old truck for the oldest ones now. So there's going to be wear and tear and maintenance on them. I don't think I've ever put reservoir shocks on an 80. I've never actually messed with them. Yeah, I don't know. The only reservoir ones we've messed with lately are the Icons on 200 series. And I've got remote Bilsteins on my Forerunner, but those are 15 years old. So they probably don't compare to the new tech. So yeah, I don't have a good answer for reservoirs on an 80 series. You've tried them all. You should know what works on an 80 series. You're always changing springs and shocks. And Richie's the only person that sleeps in my parking lot that I know of. But anyway, to go back to the 100 series and the pre-purchase, you shouldn't necessarily be scared of them. Just go into it with open eyes, knowing what to look for. It seems like the ones that we see come through for pre-purchase generally have 3,000 to 5,000 in neglected maintenance. So if you go into it knowing that you could potentially spend an additional 3,000 to 5,000, over whatever they're asking, you can budget for it and be a little bit prepared for it, and there's the chance you could find one that's had, amazing maintenance and doesn't need anything. We get the timing belt kits from Amazon, TKT021 for the ASIN. Double check me on part number, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. We order it all the time. That's the one with the tensioner. The tensioner one is not that much more, so we go ahead and do the tensioner while we're in there. I've been meaning to put together a kit on our website with like the ASIN timing belt kit, the Toyota heater tees, Toyota thermostat gasket, thermostat, and cam and crank seals, but I have not gotten around to doing that yet. Yeah, the Icon stuff that I've messed with has been really nice, but I've only really messed with it on 200 series. I've done a couple of 80 series with the Slinky kits, but they haven't gotten much road time on them yet. The AHC delete, it depends on how much lift you want and what you're going for. I'm trying to think, and I should know this because we do this like once a week, but I want to say base, with the Old Man Emu suspension and labor, you're probably in the ballpark of 2,000. Cool. Thanks for tuning in, Richie, and I'll catch you later. And you'll have to swing by soon. We've got a bunch of new toys at the shop. We usually do the Old Man Emu suspension because the factory Land Cruiser torsion bars that you would want are stupidly expensive. Like the 2 torsion bars are more than the entire Old Man Emu kit. We took apart a truck a few months ago, and we're waiting on an Old Man Emu kit to come in, and it was when they'd gone back ordered, but we didn't know it. And we ended up having to buy a set of Toyota factory torsion bars to put it all back together, and ended up losing like $800 on that job. But yeah, ballpark with the Old Man Emu, if you're not really looking to lift it so you don't need upper control arms and the diff drop bracket and stuff, you're probably around $2,000-ish. And depending on where you are in the country, labor might be cheaper. Yeah, I want to say the Toyota bars here were like $600 a piece. It was crazy what they cost. But yeah, we end up having to cut the shocks out of most of them we do. So we charge about 9.5 hours to do the base swap over, which we actually got an email, from a guy that, said our estimate was kind of high, but we do a lot of them. And here where it's rusty, it takes quite a bit more than your standard bit of labor, to get everything apart and dealt with. So, it depends on where you are, what your local labor rates are. But I would budget about $2,000. It's been forever since I've done HC globes. It's probably been 6 or 7 years. I would try to find a PDF version of the factory service manual to be sure, because the system is fairly high pressure, so it's not something that you want to open up if it's still under pressure. You want to be absolutely certain that there's no pressure in the system before you loosen the globes. If I recall correctly, key off, you can just open all the bleeders to release the pressure. but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. It's been forever since we messed with them. Normally we just open the bleeders, drain the system, and cut the AHC off and replace it with Ome and Emu. Where at the shop, I could look up the actual instructions, but I can't get a hold of them here at the house. For some reason, you can't open the shop software in Chrome. It has to be Firefox, and I haven't put Firefox on this laptop yet. Yeah, as you open the bleeders, the truck will drop down, and it's really disconcerting the first time you do it because you think the truck's going to squish you. So yeah, be careful. Make sure that you leave plenty of room between you and the truck before you open the bleeders. Oh, and I guess I should also mention in the video, we've been toying around with adding a Patreon site. So like if folks like really dig the videos and like what we're putting out, you can subscribe to a Patreon, and it chips in a couple of bucks a month and helps us out with getting new camera gear and video editing stuff. Just helps make better videos. Anyway, if anybody's interested in the Patreon stuff, I put a link down in the description below. But yeah, no. What do I say? You don't need to go to the Patreon, but if you have any interest in it, it's down below. SUV that I would recommend. The 80 series are super stout and well built, but again, you're probably going to have a lot of catch up maintenance because they're 25, 30 years old now. The 4Runners seem really well built. Everybody sees me as a Land Cruiser shop, so we rarely ever get 4Runners through. But from what I've seen of them, they're well built, and at least here we don't see them as rusty as the 100 series. I don't know why. The Sequoias, yeah, they're okay. They have issues with the electronic shift motor for the transfer case, and that can get pretty expensive. So yeah, I mean, I guess the 100 series isn't a bad truck, and it's not that I don't recommend them. It's just you need to look a little bit closer at them, when you're going to look at them, like any used vehicle. I mean, anything Toyota, in my opinion, is going to be better than, American stuff. But the 100 series seems to have its issues, and most of what we see them as having issues aren't really faults of the truck. It's just lack of maintenance and lack of care. Like nobody's checking for corrosion underneath and letting it get out of control. Nobody's doing the timing belts when they should be done. Nobody's like people put the wrong power steering fluid in, which seems to make the racks leak. Stuff like that. It's a lot of it's preventable, but people don't prevent it, if that makes sense. And they use the truck. They're like, oh, it's a Toyota, it's bulletproof. And they use it for 15, 20 years, and then they sell it to somebody else's used vehicle, and the second person ends up doing all the catch-up maintenance that the first guy didn't do. So I wouldn't necessarily fault the truck for it. More just lack of maintenance. But I think you're going to see that on pretty much anything used you're looking for. We just see it the most on 100 series because that's what people are starting to bring a lot of to us lately. We've got a ton of 100 series and a ton of 80 series at the shop right now, with a smattering of 40 and 60 mixed in there for good measure. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, mostly just check anything really well for rust. We've gotten a lot through lately that people are just shocked when we, point out the rust holes. Where if you just kind of duck your head under the side, you can easily see that there's a lot of corrosion problems. So that'd be the big thing. In Texas, I mean, you're at least probably going to be pretty dry. So you're probably not going to have as much of a rust issue. And the AHC related issues that we see are generally related to the lines rotting out of them. Or shocks going bad and we can't replace the shock because all the lines are seized. I have not used Lexus Parts Now. I feel like I've used Toyota Parts Now to look up part numbers and stuff when I'm ordering from my local guys. For factory parts, I tend to use my local dealer. We do enough business with them that they know what we deal with all the time, and they stock everything that I regularly go through, and then I don't have to stock it because it's right there at the dealer. To me, it's worth paying more to have somebody that I talk to every day that knows my business, knows what parts I go through, and is willing to help me out and keep stuff in stock for me. And if I have issues with parts, they take care of me. It never seems to fail that when I order online is when I have issues with parts. If I were going to order online, I would order from Bino if he's still taking on clients. I'm not sure if he is or not. But Bino on Mud, that guy is like a rolling parts encyclopedia. If he can't find you the parts you're looking for, they don't exist. That said, I'm a terrible friend, and I end up getting them from my local dealer as opposed to ordering them in from Bino just because I can get them faster and turn vehicles faster from my local guys. Yeah, Bino, Land Cruiser Parts and Consulting. Bino's his mud screen name. Yeah, he is a parts super genius. Him and Sedan, but Sedan retired, so we don't have Sedan anymore. And I'm sure there's other good folks too, but for factory, I either go to my local dealer or Bino. For aftermarket, Cruiser Brothers or Cruiser Outfitters. Unless it's something oddball like a custom bumper or something that only one person makes and you've got to get it from that one person. But Cruiser Brothers and Cruiser Outfitters, you absolutely can't go wrong getting parts from them. They get parts out fast, only quality, and great stuff. What years of 100 do I prefer? I don't have a personal preference. It's around 05 that they swapped to the 5-speed transmission and the variable valve timing. And those have got, a little bit more get up and go, a little more power. So those seem to be the more desirable ones. The older ones, don't seem to be underpowered, at least, not when you're used to driving 60s and 80s. So I don't see a ton of difference, between them. The older ones were locked in the rear, but again, you can get around that, put an air locker or an e-locker in, to one that didn't have it. So yeah, I would look more at maintenance and overall condition than year. and mileage as well. The newer Trans and the newer version of the 4.7, are nicer. But I don't know if they're nice enough to justify overlooking older ones, especially since the older ones seem to be coming down a lot more in price. I don't know that I've noticed a difference as far as having to repair stuff up front. As far as like suspension and that. But I mean, that it could certainly be true. I don't spend enough time in the forums to pick up all of the minutia about all the different series. Pretty much I'm going on just what we see in the shop as far as repairs coming through. And at least the trucks that we're seeing, I haven't seen a marked difference in strength in the front ends. We tend to do more suspension related repairs on the older ones, but I've always just chalked that up to the fact that they're older. But there could be something I'm overlooking. So I may need to read up on this and see. Yeah, I used to spend a ton of time on the forums, but now with the shop, the shop's busy. It's getting even busier. So by the time I get home, get cleaned up and make dinner, I am way too tired to hang out on the forums. I wish I had more time to spend on there. And lately, I've been trying to learn more about, video editing, photography, camera setups, stuff like that. So that's where my free time's been going. And I apologize if my dogs, if you can hear them in the background, they're wrestling on the floor behind me because it's almost their dinner time. And they're trying to tell me they want dinner. Charlie, hush, you're fine. It's not time yet. What do I drive? I have a 2004 Blurple Subaru Forester that I paid $200 for. It's a Subaru that I fell into. It needed head gaskets. I put head gaskets in it. It's my daily driver. I've also got an 87 4Runner that's on 80 series axles that's built, but it's been sitting for like 7 or 8 years. I need to put it back together and actually wheel it, but it just sits because I don't have time. I want an 80 series like to build as a shop truck. I just haven't come across the right 80 series or the time to build one yet. And I've been dumping, all the extra shop money. I've been dumping it back into shop tools to, expand what we can do in the shop and just make things go faster. Front end as far as 2-pinion versus 4-pinion. I didn't think about that. And I haven't actually had to mess with a cruiser front end for blowing up pinion wise. Really, stop. The only one I've had to do was CV shaft seals blew, and the diff ran dry and roasted the bearings. But I can see where 2 versus 4 pinion, that could be a big strength difference. I know in the old V6 4Runners, the 4 pinion was a lot stronger than the 2 pinion. I didn't even think about that difference. When you said front end, I was thinking suspension wise. Yeah, I need to get something cool to drive. My Subaru for a cheapie is, it's good enough to get me back and forth to work. It's like 13 miles each way. But I need a shop truck, and I need an 80 series to actually wheel, because the 4Runner's built enough that you can't really drive it on the street anymore. So I'd have to get a tow rig and a trailer to be able to wheel it, and that's not in the budget or timeline anytime soon. So yeah, I want an 80 series. I just need to get around to actually buying and building an 80 series. So funny you say that. I've been talking to one of the local guys. I'm supposed to build an 80 series Ute for him over the winter. He might come by this week for me to look at it. He was talking about gutting it and getting it ready for me, kind of just waiting until I get the other side of the shop to bring his in. I did collision and restoration body work for a decade, so body conversion totally in my wheelhouse. It's just a matter of actually having the time and space to do it. I cut 5 feet out of the 4Runner that I've got and made it basically an extended cab pickup with a power back window years ago. But yeah, I'd love an 80 series Ute, and I guess I'll practice on Brandon's and then see where it goes. And thanks for the congrats on the expansion. We haven't actually done it yet. Probably the latest it'll happen is April, when the lease actually renews, although the race team has talked some about leaving sooner than that. So as soon as they leave, I am ready to take the extra space. Yeah, if you're just looking for like family trips and going to the beach and going to Costco, 100 series would do you fine. A Sequoia would probably do you fine as well, or a 4Runner, depending on how much space you need. Yeah, I need to find the proper rough enough 80 that it makes sense to cut it up. I'm not going to cut up a pristine 80 to make a Ute. My 4Runner, it had already been rolled several times by the time I cut it up and shortened it. So yeah, I need an 80. Guys, you have to wait just a minute. You have to wait. It's not time yet. And if anybody sees my dogs, don't tell them I lied to them. I just told them it's not 7 o'clock yet because they think it's time for dinner. And they're right, but I'm not getting up yet. Yeah, the newest 4Runner I've owned is a 2nd gen. But my dad had a 3rd gen, and my brother had a 4th gen. So that's the newest I've gone with them. I like the look of the newest ones. I just can't stomach the cost. Oh, and also thanks for the time to make the videos. We're already doing the repairs anyway, so it doesn't take that much longer to shoot videos. While we're already doing the repairs, and they're fun to do, and it seems to help people out. So we'll keep making them. But if you guys come up with suggestions for videos that you want to see, shoot me an email, leave them in a comment below. We're always looking for ideas for what folks want to see a video in or video on. We're in Virginia, about an hour southwest of Washington, D.C. So not near any good four-wheeling. But apparently there's a lot of Land Cruisers around here, so they keep us busy. Right now, I'm in Warrenton, Virginia. I'm at home, but the shop's in Bealton, about 10 miles south of here. Yeah, I need to get out to Oregon one day too. My wife and I have talked about hitting like Oregon, Washington, that side of the country. I'd love to get out that way. I think Iceland. I think we've pegged it down that Iceland's our next trip, but we need to do some traveling in the U.S. We're gonna go someplace cold for once. The last 2 trips we did Colombia and Nicaragua, both during the summer, and they were unbelievably hot. The all-wheel drive systems, I haven't seen any issues with them. We get the occasional, leaking seal or bad output bearing, but most of that's on higher mileage stuff. So I haven't seen any major issues. We've seen issues a couple of times with the Sequoias, with their transfer case shift motors. And that crosses over to some of the Forerunners and Tacomas, I believe, but I'm not positive on which ones. But yeah, on the 100 series, I can't think of any issues we've had with those beyond just, time-related seals going bad. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to jump off of here so I can feed the dogs their dinner and start cooking my dinner because my wife should be headed home from work here pretty soon. So I'll get going on dinner for this evening. But yeah, we'll be back again next week, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So if you got any other questions, just shoot them over to us then, or shoot me an email. And there's a lag time with me responding to email, but I generally try to get to them. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. I appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe below. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.